Alright, so you've all seen, well, maybe you have seen the video on my original TRX4. This was the Defender that I converted, but I couldn't help myself. I really wanted the K10, so I bought the K10, and yeah, let's see it. Here it is, the K10 High Trail, the way that Traxxas boxes it and sends it to you. Mine is not a high trail anymore. I modified it because I did not want a high trail truck. Also wasn't really a huge fan of the 1980s monster truck look, so I ditched it. And thought I would just go over that stuff real quick, just in case somebody else is looking to do the same thing. Get rid of the lift kit, get rid of the tires, go back to a regular 1.9 tire. Let me pop the body off real quick and show you guys what I did. Alright, body's off. Let's go over all the changes that have to be made in order to make your high trail a non-high trail. First off, this thing, this big servo plate or battery plate, whatever they call it, this is raised up on some like 10 mil spacers. So you gotta just pull the spacers out and replace the bolts with the normal short bolts. I ended up buying an extra blazer kit, so I had these laying around. So no big deal. You might have to find screws, shorter screws, but the plate you can reuse. As far as the top goes, that's really the only modification you have to make. The bottom is where all of the modifications take place. So we'll start at the rear. In the back, obviously, besides having to replace your shocks, you have to change the drive shaft length and you have to change the link ends. So these are the factory upper and lower lift links. Nothing changed there. Both ends from the out of the box are going to be these extended, like 6mm extended rod ends. You just have to get regular rod ends and replace one side to bring the axle forward 5mm, and that lines up really well with the body in the rear. So easy enough to do that. It takes like no time at all to just swap out one side. In the rear, you will have to go to a shorter drive shaft on one side. I believe this is a 40mm long piece, so it's like a typical long from like a Land Rover, and maybe your Blazer already has it on one side. I don't really know for sure, but it's about the same size as my Land Rover on both ends. I bought the kit. It was like $8, I think, for all the drive shaft pieces from Traxxas, so I just had that laying around, and I used that to swap this side out. Originally, they're both going to be the extra long ones. These are like 50 mil, so you just got to swap this side out, or this side, depends on really whatever you feel like doing. In the rear, these are just standard GTS shocks I ordered. I had some .39 springs left over from when I did my Land Rover suspension. The shocks, I think, were $40 for the pair, which is a bit expensive, but I guess it is what it is. And then the springs are about $6 each for a pair, so you can just get whatever, weight you want. I just reused those because I already had them. In the front, same thing. Swap out a pair of shocks, another $40, so it's like $80 in shocks. It's kind of ridiculous, honestly, but I really wanted this thing lower, so I spent the money. So you gotta do your shocks. Obviously, these are 45s, just standard springs. Like I said, $6. I can order different ones if I want to. It's not too expensive to do that. You do have to replace the actual link rods in the front, all of them, the upper and the two lowers. I believe that the lowers are $7 and the upper is about $6 for the pair of uppers, which I think it's your pan hard bar as well. So just buy the pairs and replace those. You can reuse the rod ends. There's nothing different about them, but you do have to do that. Otherwise, the pan hard bolt right here will contact the drag link because the axle will be too far forward and you won't be able to get suspension travel out of it. So you got to replace the links. One of these is a medium, so you have to replace it with a short to make it factory. I think it was this one that was a medium, so I pulled it off and replaced it. So no big deal, easy enough to swap out another half shaft, and then your drive shafts are good. And in the very front, let me tip this thing back a little bit more to make it easier. You will have to replace the servo mount, because the servo mount drops the servo way down, and it has an attachment here for the pan hard bar that also pushes, or the pan hard bar drops way down too, to accommodate the longer shocks in the lift kit. You have to delete that whole piece It just comes out of the frame right there. And then I went with an ST Racing aluminum mount. That was about 18 bucks. So if you get a Traxxas one, it's probably like $6 or $7. It's probably not too expensive. I just bought the aluminum one because I didn't want to try and find a Traxxas one. And having an aluminum servo mount is always a good thing because it adds more rigidity to the chassis. That's pretty much it. I mean, everything else was the same. The panhard bar is the same length. The drag link is the same length. Nothing's really different as far as that goes. So you just reuse all those parts. So you just got to get new front links, new shocks, some rod ends for the rear, and the drive shaft kit. And that's pretty much all it takes. That is literally all it takes to make it a regular height TRX4. This thing is minty clean because it's literally never been driven. I pulled it out of the box and started looking at how to modify it to make it right. And yeah, I just completed the lift kit and everything else, or removing the lift kit, and I ordered me some SSD steel bead locks, which I actually dig them. They look pretty good. And I ordered their hubs while I was at it. These are the Super Swampers from the other truck, because I really want TSL SXs on my real rig, and I figured that they would be cool on the replica truck as well. So that should work for both the K10 and the new F-150. I don't have an F-150 to compare it to, but the K10 is very easy to convert if you want a longer wheelbase chassis with a clipless truck body. That's really all it takes. Everything there. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll try and answer them. But overall, it's pretty straightforward, and it's not super bad as far as cost. I think it looks a lot better. So definitely worthwhile if you really want a K10 body, or if you really don't want a lifted K10. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helps you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.